I'm gonna have a lot of videos to post. Here's another one. Sorry, I'm not gonna apologize, but it's my timing. My time runs out. Anyways, I'm Mexico. I was talking about is it's incredible, people. If you ever feel like you want to be humbled a little bit and just taken down, and or be if you want to be more grateful for what you have where you live, if you're someone that lives somewhere where people buy a new vehicle every few years or trade it in, or your phone is 2 editions old and you're getting a new one, go to Mexico, or go to a country that has a little more poverty, or doesn't have a lot of money and stuff like that. It will freaking humble you. And what I mean by that is it will take you down a notch or two. And that's not really a nice way of phrasing it. I need to rephrase that. It humbles you in the sense that you'll end up being more grateful. I heard this from a lot of people. It's not just me. You'll be more grateful for what you have, for life itself. I mean, in one of my earlier videos, I was talking about how people were complaining about the areas that are so lush, and there's constant rain and sunshine, and everything's thriving and growing, and everything's beautiful, and there's no issues. There's no issues. There's no shortage of anything. There's no shortage of water. There's no shortage of, there's healthy everything. And people are still complaining. And I don't often say anything. I pick my audience very well. I do often, once in a while, I kind of mess up and I say something when I recognize the person is not ready to receive that or something like that. But I often do know when something needs to be said or not said, or who can handle what, or even when people are open and can receive whatever it is that I'm feeling that I want to say or whatever. But so that's why I was saying earlier, I have a difficult time when people complain in a place that just provides endless, and it's just so easy to see. And I know that they haven't been to a place that's less, that provides, that's a harsher environment, that doesn't provide as effortlessly as some areas do, right? So yeah, I do have a difficult time. Because I've been where I've been now. I know there's places that are even much more harsh and than where I was in Baja. It's not that it's the resources are still there. It's not that difficult. Like there's you can get drinking water, you can get healthy vegetables, you can get healthy foods. It's all over. It's not, there's no shortage. But so I know that there's places in the world that are even another level harder, and I know that when I get there that it'll humble me even more. But still, regardless, just go and have an experience. If it's really, I think it's very healthy and it's very good for our soul. And what's interesting though, it's interesting that I find that when I go to places like that that are more just about survival, right? Like you go into Mexico, no one's got like a brand new vehicle. You actually see, it's so cool. You see the old 1970, 80s bugs all over, and just, vehicles are 20, 30, 40 years old, and they just keep repairing them. And if you think about it, it's brilliant in a sense too, because they're the old vehicles. Anyone that is an older generation or my own generation or whatever, or I shouldn't even put a label on that. Anyone that's learned this knows that, the older vehicles, you can work on them. They're not all full of computers. It's kind of brilliant. It's smarter. It's so much smarter, really, actually. It's, and I was talking to you about this truck that I just got. It's an '04. Well, it doesn't have it was before the DEF came in, all the diesel restriction things on the vehicles that, you hear all these horror stories, and it's just big money with the computers and things, and like, I don't have any of that. So, I don't know. There's something to be said for these older vehicles, and, But, it just comes down to that people don't have the money, right? And so they just live. They just live to survive. Like they just, it's just about getting clean water and food, and that's the norm. And enjoying each other. Like it's a slower pace there, in which that's a whole nother subject that I haven't talked to you guys about. That is amazing that, like it takes longer to get things done in Mexico as far as labor goes and things like that. Because you know what? If their kid in school has a presentation, they go. They take the day off of work and they go. Like, I have a difficult time with our society in Canada and the US, and maybe there's other parts of the world that I don't know about, and I'm sure there is, that are just like going 100 miles an hour, that are just boom, 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 boom. Like, and I mean, years ago, right? What did we work? 40 hours a week was a normal thing, and that was it. Now you're 60, 70 hours a week for a work week is nothing for people. They're just doing it. Like, so, like, where's the balance? Where's the balance in life? Are you like, and there's a rat race going on. And so that's that. There's so many things that I love. There's a lot of things I didn't like about Mexico. Like there is some things that I don't resonate with. I don't really know if I want to get into them. But, well, I guess if I'm going to bring it up, I probably should just get into it. Right. One of the things is it's such an interesting dynamic of respect and disrespect. There's like Mexicans have such a high respect for one another, but at the same time there's a huge disrespect as well. And let me finish before you guys are judging me or assuming what I'm talking about. Let me finish. So, like, again, there's a love for one another, and everyone takes care of one another, and they're all concerned for one another, and they just want to help one another, and that's the respect part, right? And I see that, and I think it's beautiful. But the disrespect, which was very interesting to me, that it was not something that it's something that doesn't really happen too much in the USA and in Canada, because we have rules against this a little bit stricter. Like, say, for example, like, your neighbor's dog cannot bark on, I'm referencing Canada and the US. For example, your neighbor, like, you can call the police, right? I'm pretty sure. I know you can in Canada, and you can call the police and say, like, my neighbor's dog's barking all night. Like, they'll come and put a stop to it, or give the person a warning or whatever. Eventually something's probably going to happen if there's enough calls or whatever. And same with music. Like, it's really just a noise thing, right? Say, for example, I'm in a city, and I got neighbors all around me, and I'm blasting my music like a concert's going on every night until 6 o'clock in the morning, all night long. Like, you can't do that, right? Like, you can't do that. The cops will show up, and they'd be like, hey, you can't do that. Right? So, and it really comes down to respect, right? Your neighbors want to sleep. People have to get up and go to work. Like, in Mexico, I don't know all the rules. I don't know the culture. I'm not disrespecting it in any way, but I do think it's disrespectful. And I have actually talked to some Mexicans, and they agree with me that, so what I understand is it's in the law, for Mexican law, for example, that any Mexican, or anyone that's a resident, I guess, of Mexico or whatever, the law there, the rule is that you are allowed to live your life any way you want to. Like, you're allowed to, on your property, you're allowed to live your life any way you want that brings you joy or whatever. You're allowed to. So, it's very common for your neighbor in Mexico to be blasting his music all night long, dogs barking like crazy. I struggled with it. I had many, 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 many sleepless nights. I tried earplugs, like, I had to go to secluded beaches, like, just where there was nobody, just to get away from it. I've met some beautiful, 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 incredible new friends of mine they're totally my family. and they, I met them through, they had a campground down there in Baja, and I met them, and I spent most of the winter engaged with them, and they're just incredible. Just the most loving. They're just so loving. And they're, anyways, it's not about them. They lived in a bit of the city, and they have this gorgeous campground, but they're surrounded by, these Mexican residents that, the one guy across the street, sounded like it was a concert going on every other night. Like it was just, and it went all night. The music, like, even with earplugs in, like it muffled it, but man, and the dogs, the whole neighborhood just barks. Like one dog starts barking, and the next one, and the next one, and the next one, the whole neighborhood. And it's just, to me, that's what I'm saying. Like, again, I'm not disrespecting the culture at all. Don't get me wrong, I'm not. But it just seems like a person to a person, a neighbor to a neighbor, it seems like a very disrespectful thing. Like, your neighbor may need to get up and go to work in the morning. Like, and so I was talking about some of my Mexican friends that agree with me on this, that think it's kind of a crummy thing or whatever. And they're like, yeah, we gotta get up and go to work in the morning, but we just put our earplugs in, and it just doesn't seem like it just doesn't seem respectful of one another. Yet at the same time, there's this huge respect in culture where I see a disrespect in a different sense, for love thy neighbor or whatever. I'm not a super religious kind of guy or whatever, but I'm aware of that phrase of love thy neighbor kind of thing, right? In Canada and the US, a lot of us don't love thy neighbor. We're just, one, just one for one, and we're out for ourselves, and we just keep to ourselves, and we just, like where did the days go where you pulled over as someone's stuck on the side of the road? Where did the days go where we pull over and check on someone and see if they're okay as everyone just drives by? I've stopped many times in my journey and stopped and checked on. And I remember one guy, I think he was from Lebanon or something. It doesn't matter where he was from, but that's irrelevant. But that is relevant. I'm not even sure why I said that. It was just a gentleman anyways that I pulled over on the highway, and I checked, and man, I helped him. I had tools that he didn't have. We ended up taking his drive shaft out because his front wheel drive was the problem, and his it was an all wheel drive vehicle, and then the rear wheel drive was still working, but the front was clanking. Something was wrong with it. We just ended up taking his whole shaft out. We needed to jack it up. Between him and I, we had all the tools to do. We did it on the side of the road, and he commented. He's like, man, I've been here for hours and thousands of people have driven by me. Yeah. Anyways, I get it. It's fear. It's fear. That's the problem, right? Fear. Fear stops us. We all let the fear, right? And a lot of it, and again, these videos of mine might just get shut down because they, the whole, the mainstream media runs everything. Let's be honest. And you're fed. Everyone's got a TV screen in their house. You're fed what they want people to be in fear, man. It's an actual fact. It's an actual fact. We're all taught to be afraid of thy neighbor, and so to speak, so it's crummy, but at the same time, I don't know. I know there's a shift coming. I know there's something going in the right direction here. So I don't want to get going too far off. I was on my journey. So anyways, yeah, I came across the U.S. and Colorado was beautiful. But this, yeah, I don't know. It started to flex its muscles a little bit, it seemed like, money-wise and things. So I didn't really. And then, of course, I came across Nebraska, which is absolutely gorgeous with these beautiful green rolling hills. But just like anytime, just like when I came across the prairies of Canada, it's quite challenging in those areas to wild or remote camp or whatever you want to call it, because it's all private farmland, right? So it's not wilderness. It's not, there's none of that crown BLM land I was talking about. That kind of disappears. And so, yeah, that's where you dive into your boondockers and your hip camps and your harvest hosts. You're going to get a few more wineries and breweries and places like that. So, yeah. And then South Dakota, a little bit of South Dakota. Similar. I came through just halfway through across the bottom part of it, so it was still very farmlandy. I know on the west side, I think it's called the Badlands or something like that, and it's more mountainous and stuff like that. So, anyways, yeah, that was my whole entire. And then, of course, I came across the bottom of Lake Superior, which is just spectacular. So there's Minnesota, there's Wisconsin, and there's Michigan that you come across. You tap into all three of those across the bottom of anybody that's drawn to Lake Superior, go and do it's called a circle tour. Go and do the circle tour. I've pretty much gone around the entire Lake Superior, half of it across the top in the beginning of my journey in 2022, and then just recently across the bottom. And the top and the bottom are different. There's similarities, but they're different. And one's in Canada, one's in the US, and that's not even the differences I was talking about, but the terrain's a bit different and things. And I find I'm drawn a little bit more to the top. It's a little more rugged, it seems like, and a little more rough and rugged, and yeah. But there's not to take away from the bottom because it's spectacular. Definitely by far the coldest water, even from the Arctic Ocean. It was by far the coldest I've ever experienced. I was in for 20 seconds and lost feeling in my legs. It was insane. It's cold. It's really cold. But mind you, that was also in June. So, it was probably just starting to, but one thing I learned about Lake Superior is I remember seeing a graph one time, and Lake Superior is literally one of the deepest. I remember seeing a graph of all bodies of water, even oceans, lakes, everything. And I don't know if it was just, I think it was worldwide, but, Lake Superior was like the second on the bottom of the list. There was like only one ocean. And I don't remember what ocean it was, but there was only one ocean that was deeper on this graph. And I was like, holy crap. So like Lake Superior is freaking deep, man, like really deep, which hence why it's probably so cold. It never warms up, right? But wow, I mean, it's cold. You want to do some Wim Hof and some ice bath. Holy shoodle doodles. So yeah, anyways, but just spectacular, great energy too. There's a really, really, really special, if you're someone that feels energy in land and places, there's a lot of, very, native, pure, sacred land along there. And it's gorgeous. It's the energy, the feeling. Another place is Manitoulin Island. I was there, I remember feeling quite the presence there. It was very exciting to be there. It was one of the first times I felt such a peace and a presence in the land itself. Definitely check it out if you're someone that enjoys that. So and then I came down through the northern Michigan and back in Ontario, and I spent a couple months there. And this is now where I'm at, and I've just left, and I'm gonna be going back across to British Columbia. I want to explore some airports and see where it resonates with me. I'm at the point in my life now where it's all about, it has nothing to do with money, it has everything to do with energy. So the energy is the instructor, for example, the person that would be training me, the airport itself, what they offer, the planes. I just need to be there. I think it's important, if you're someone that is an energy person, to just go and take that time to feel out places and see where your soul resonates with. It makes perfect sense to me. I've carved out the time. I'm not in a hurry. I'm 46 years old. Doesn't matter to me when I get my pilot's license. I'm not in a hurry, but I'm also not going to dilly-dally either. So, yeah. So that's where I'm on my way. Like I was saying in an earlier video, I'm pretty excited to see Montana. It looks spectacular. I have some friends in Idaho I'm going to stop and visit. that I met when I was down in Baja. And then, of course, even in British Columbia, I've already been in touch with like 3 or 4 different connections that I made. It's interesting when you meet someone, and I'm sure a lot of you have this similar story where, and I know yous do, because I've met a lot of people that have shared the same sort of experiences that I've had, where, you know, for example, you met someone in, like, you know, one part of the world or somewhere in a different country, and then you meet up with them again. Sometimes it's through you've stayed connected and you know each other's in the area and you reconnect somewhere completely else, and sometimes that's the case. But I've also had some situations, not very many, but I've had a few where I've reconnected with people, and it was like, you know, just because you're maybe going along the same kind of path or journey, and your energies got drawn back to each other, and you're just like, oh my gosh, you're here? What are you, like, what? You know? And so, yeah. So anyways, there's a few connections I have in British Columbia that I had met. The connections had originated maybe down in Baja or something in Mexico. So I'm really excited to just reconnect with those ones, because they're the ones why I've stayed connected with them, you know, because they resonate with me. Our souls sing together, you know, and we complement each other, and it's just, it's a love. So anyways, so I'm just excited to get back over there. I have a workaway to check out as well. Someone's contacted me about that, and so I'm just very curious to see. So yeah, and then I guess as the temperatures start to get colder, I'll do just as I do, and I'll work my way down to Mexico. Now, I did mention that I do have a place down there, but you know, part of the universe working for me was that the information has come my way. You know, I've been asking, how do I sustain this lifestyle, right? Like, honestly, guys, I shouldn't say I don't think. I mean,